I found out about my sister's wedding on a Tuesday. Not from my sister, not from my mom, not from a family group chat that excluded me, though that would have been on brand. I found out from Instagram, from a wedding vendor's promotional post. The venue name literally made my stomach drop. The Ashford Estate. That specific, beautiful limestone building with the wisteria-covered pergola that I had photographed obsessively back in 2017. I remember the shade of purple. I remember the way the light hit it at 4 p.m. I'm going to tell you a story about weddings and sisters and the slow, suffocating weight of family betrayal. But I need you to understand something up front. This isn't a story about what happened at my wedding. It's a story about what I discovered after I stopped waiting for an apology. My name is Sarah, and for 5 years, I carried this narrative in my head where I was the victim, just completely cast in that role, the abandoned bride, the sister left behind. But somewhere in the last couple years, I realized that story was keeping me stuck. And when I saw that Instagram post, I had to decide, was I going to stay stuck? Or was I going to actually figure out what the hell happened between me and my sister? Let me go back. Growing up, Melissa wasn't just my older sister. She was the template for everything. She was 3 years older, which at certain ages might as well be decades. When I was 7 and crying because nobody wanted to play with me at school, Melissa taught me how to do this thing where I'd make myself invisible in the corner until someone needed someone invisible, and then I'd slide into the game. Weird strategy, but it worked. She was popular without being mean about it, smart without being insufferable, the kind of person who made other people feel like they were the interesting one. I absolutely worshipped her. Our relationship shifted around the time I turned 20. Nothing dramatic, just the way it does. She went to Berkeley. I stayed in our hometown, going to community college, living at home, because my parents were already weird about money stuff. I started working at a marketing firm doing social media, which felt like a real job, but also felt small compared to whatever Melissa was doing at Berkeley. She was taking seminars from published authors. I was posting carousel graphics for local dental offices. We didn't fight, we just diverged. She'd come home for holidays, we'd be nice to each other, we'd take a photo for Instagram, and then she'd leave, and I'd feel this weird ache, like I'd failed some unspoken audition just by existing in my normal life. Then I met Daniel. He was exactly what you'd expect from a guy who works in wine distribution. He had opinions about things that didn't need opinions. He wore expensive casual wear, and he was actually genuinely kind in a way that didn't feel performative, which, coming from my family, felt revolutionary. My parents liked him. My dad especially. My dad would literally never like anyone, and my dad liked Daniel. I proposed to him. Yes, me. At the coast, at sunset, doing all the things you're supposed to do. He cried. I cried. He said yes. The only thing missing was someone to photograph it, which is funny because I would spend the next 3 years obsessing over photography. I told Melissa right away, called her. I remember I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store, and I was shaking, actually shaking, with this need to tell her. Because even though we were distant, she was still the person whose opinion mattered most. She was still my template. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That's really fast, isn't it?" I remember my hand getting cold around the steering wheel, because that wasn't what you say. You say congratulations. You say, "I'm so happy for you." You don't say it's fast in that tone, like you're doing me a favor by being honest. But I made excuses for her. She was stressed with school. She was probably tired. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. That's going to be a theme here. The wedding was supposed to be 18 months out. Not this elaborate Pinterest fever dream, but something real, intimate-ish, about 100 people, at that beautiful venue, the Ashford Estate. I was so excited about the planning that I made this stupid decision. I asked Melissa to be my maid of honor. My mom was genuinely shocked. She literally said, "Don't you want someone you talk to regularly?" Which, harsh, but fair. But I really genuinely wanted to bridge whatever gap had opened between us, and I thought this would do it. Melissa said yes. She actually seemed happy about it. For the first 3 months, we texted almost daily. She sent me Pinterest boards. She had ideas about florals that were actually beautiful. She called me on my lunch breaks. It felt like we were getting our thing back. I felt like I was getting my sister back. Then she went to a wedding, her boyfriend's cousin's wedding. And she came back different. She started making comments, small ones at first, about my choices. About Daniel's family, specifically about his mom, who, yes, is a lot, but who wasn't actually in our lives that much. About the venue. She said it was predictable. She said the Ashford estate was where basic girls got married. I remember laughing it off. I remember thinking, she's just being a snob. But I also remember changing my playlist for the cocktail hour because she said the artists I'd picked were too mainstream. My mom started getting involved. And here's where it gets weird, because my mom's involvement was less about her having opinions and more about her choosing sides. She'd mentioned things Melissa had said, subtly suggesting that Melissa thought various aspects of my wedding were wrong. Not bad, wrong, like a moral failing. By month 5 of planning, I was genuinely uncertain about every decision I'd made. The venue, now I was thinking about whether it was too predictable. The flowers, was I being too safe? My dress? I must have tried on 30 dresses because suddenly nothing felt right. And Melissa was there for all of it. She was present and encouraging and supportive. But it was like watching someone smile while they turned up the heat in a room slowly enough that you don't realize you're being boiled. Here's the thing about betrayal from a specific person. It's not the individual acts, it's the gaslighting architecture. It's when someone chips away at your confidence so gradually that you start to question whether you're being paranoid or whether there's actually a pattern. 3 months before my wedding, I had dinner with Melissa, just us. I thought we were finally in a good place. We were at this nice restaurant, and I was actually relaxed, and I asked her directly, "Do you not want to be in my wedding?" And she looked genuinely confused. She said, "Of course I do. Why would you think that?" I tried to explain this vague feeling I had, this sense that she didn't approve of any of it. And she got this hurt look on her face and said, "That's really unfair. I've been so supportive." And in the moment, I believed her. I actually sat there and apologized for making her feel accused, for being paranoid. The thing about people who are good at being cruel is that they're usually good at being kind too. They know exactly how to hit the off switch the moment you notice something's wrong. 2 weeks before my wedding, I was having what I can only describe as a nervous breakdown. I wasn't sleeping. I was checking and rechecking every vendor confirmation. Every email made my hands shake. Daniel would ask what was wrong, and I couldn't articulate it. How do you explain that you feel systematically undermined by someone you love? I want to be really specific here because the day itself wasn't a disaster. That's what nobody tells you about betrayal. It doesn't always announce itself with flashing neon signs. I got dressed. My hair looked good. Daniel looked at me like I'd hung the moon. Everything was technically happening correctly. Melissa helped me with my dress. She was in my room, adjusting my veil, and I actually felt this surge of love for her. I thought, we're going to be fine. We're going to get through this moment and come out the other side better. I genuinely believed that. She leaned in to hug me and she whispered, "I hope this makes you happy because nobody thinks this is going to work." I remember my brain having this moment of buffering, like a computer that doesn't understand the code it just received. I didn't ask what she meant. I wasn't ready for the answer. The ceremony was beautiful. I walked down the aisle. Daniel and I said our vows. It was the kind of moment where the world shrinks to the size of someone's face, and all the anxiety just falls away because you're actually there, doing the thing. Reception was fine, people ate, people danced, But I started noticing things. My mom was in the kitchen talking to one of my aunts, and she said, and I heard this with these weird surround sound ears I apparently grew, "Well, we'll see how long this lasts." One of Daniel's cousins, who I'd been friendly with, made a point to tell me that she'd heard from someone that I'd been difficult to plan with, that I'd apparently changed my mind about things multiple times, that Melissa had tried so hard, but I was kind of a nightmare client, except I hadn't been any of those things. Melissa had been the one changing things. And then, this is the thing that actually broke me, one of my closest friends pulled me aside to ask if I was okay. She said she'd been hanging out with Melissa during some of the planning, and Melissa had shown her texts between Melissa and my mom, where they were literally rating my decisions on a scale of good to bad decisions, and mocking Daniel's family, and worst of all, talking about how they were gently steering me away from decisions they didn't approve of. She showed me the screenshots. I remember the room got very quiet and very bright at the same time. My friend felt terrible. She'd gone back and forth for months about whether to tell me, but she couldn't watch me not know that the people I was closest to were coordinating against me. I didn't confront anyone that night. I was in shock. I danced with my new husband and kept smiling and left for the honeymoon and didn't fall apart until we were on the plane. For the next several months, I was completely paralyzed. Not sad. That would have been manageable. Paralyzed. Stuck in this space where I couldn't understand how someone you love could deliberately work to undermine you. Where your own mother participated in that undermining. Where your sister stood in your bridesmaid dress and smiled for photos while she was actively working against you. I stopped talking to Melissa. She sent me cards for a while. She called. She texted the vague apologies that sound like they mean something, but don't. "I'm sorry you felt that way, and I hope you can forgive me, and I think we got off on the wrong foot." I never responded, and for 5 years, that's where it stayed. Dead air. No relationship. Just this festering thing I was carrying. So, 5 years later, Tuesday, Instagram, the Ashford estate, wedding vendor post celebrating a new booking, and it hit me with this thing I wasn't expecting. Rage. Not sadness. Not even hurt. Rage. Because here's what I realized in that moment. Melissa had won. She'd taken the venue I'd chosen. She'd taken the space where I was supposed to have this beautiful day and poisoned it so effectively that I'd spent 5 years unable to think about it without my chest tightening. And now she got to have her wedding there. Presumably the right kind of wedding. The approved kind. I sat in my car, again in a parking lot, which apparently that's where all my life-changing moments happen. And I went through her Instagram. She had this account I didn't know about. She'd blocked me on her main one, though she claimed she didn't. Instagram is complicated, but that's another story. And on this account, I could see snippets of her life. She was engaged to some guy named Marcus. They looked happy. There were Pinterest boards that looked exactly like what I had done 5 years earlier. And I had this moment of clarity that actually made my hands shake. I was still giving her power. I was still in the moment she'd created. I was still the girl who felt undermined and unseen and betrayed. And I made a decision in that moment that I want to be very honest about, because this is where the story gets complicated. I decided I was going to go to her wedding. Not as a guest, not invited. I was going to find a way into the Ashford estate on her wedding day. Now I need to tell you, I didn't do this immediately. I didn't drive there that day. I didn't go full gone girl. I sat with this for a week, and the more I sat with it, the more I realized something. I had no idea what I was actually angry at. Was I angry at Melissa for being cruel? Was I angry at my mom for participating? Was I angry at myself for allowing it? Was I angry at the fact that 5 years had passed and I still felt like a victim. I needed to know what it was before I did anything. So I started what I can only describe as an obsessive deep dive. I called people I hadn't talked to in years, my mom, briefly and badly. Friends who'd been at the wedding, Daniel, who'd been avoiding talking about it because it made me sad and he didn't know how to fix it. What I learned was complicated. It was messier than Melissa is a bad person. It was messier than my mom is cruel. My mom was actually dealing with a lot. She was in a bad marriage. She was taking anxiety medication she'd never mentioned. She was going through this weird thing where she was trying to control the elements of my life she couldn't actually control, which is not an excuse, but it is a context. Melissa had gotten married right out of college to a guy who was emotionally abusive. I didn't know this at the time. During my wedding planning, she was actually leaving him, but she hadn't told anyone in the family yet. She was depressed. She was broke. She was dealing with shame around the divorce. And I was the person in the family doing well. I had a stable relationship. I had a good job. I was doing something everyone approved of. I was getting to have the thing that Melissa felt she'd failed at. That doesn't mean what she did was okay. Let's be super clear on that. Deliberately working to undermine someone's happiness is not okay, even when you're dealing with your own stuff. But it means that it wasn't about me, and that was the thing I needed to know. It wasn't that I was unworthy of a good wedding. It wasn't that my choices were wrong. It wasn't that I deserved to be undermined. She was sabotaging the external representation of my happiness because she was drowning and everyone around her seemed to be doing fine. That distinction changed everything. I also did something that was really hard. I called Melissa. After 5 years of nothing, I called her. She didn't answer, but she called me back 6 hours later at like midnight. And I could tell she'd been crying. I didn't start with accusations. I said, I know something was wrong 5 years ago. I know you were dealing with something, and I think I need to actually talk about it instead of just pretending it didn't happen. She broke. Immediately. She told me about her divorce. She told me she was on antidepressants. She told me that she'd known what she was doing was wrong, and she'd felt trapped in it, and she couldn't stop herself. She told me that every day for the past 5 years, she'd wanted to call and apologize, and she was too scared because she thought I hated her. We talked for 3 hours. We both cried. We didn't fix anything that night, but we at least stopped bleeding. About 3 weeks later, I got an actual in-person apology. Melissa came to my house. We sat in my living room, the same living room where I'd had panic attacks during my wedding planning. She said, I'm sorry. Not for having been struggling, that was real, but for making you the repository for all my shame, for deliberately working to make you feel as small as I felt, for using family as a weapon, for lying when you asked me directly, for not taking responsibility until now, for the last 5 years of silence. And I said, I'm sorry for deciding 5 years ago that this meant you were a bad person and never updating that opinion, even though you were probably suffering. We didn't magically become close. We're not the kind of sisters who talk every day, but we became the kind of sisters who can talk honestly, who can acknowledge that we both did things we're not proud of, who can move forward without pretending the past didn't happen. About the wedding, I didn't crash it. After going through all of this, it didn't feel like the victory I thought it would. What I did do was send her a gift. Something really beautiful. I included a card that said, I hope this venue brings you as much joy as I wanted it to bring me. I hope your wedding is everything you need it to be right now. And I hope that 5 years from now, you're not looking back, wishing you'd done things differently. But if you are, I hope you know I'll be around for that too. She called me crying when she got it. Was I tempted to do something dramatic, to show up and make a scene, to prove something about her and justice and karma? Absolutely. The fantasy of that was really seductive. But here's what I learned. Revenge isn't actually about the other person. It's about trying to convince yourself that their cruelty says something about them and nothing about you. It's about reasserting control in a situation where control is the only thing you've lost. The real power wasn't in ruining her day. It was in deciding not to let her day mean anything to me anymore. When I started this story, I framed it as being about betrayal, and it is. But it's also about this thing I didn't see coming. It's about how revenge keeps you locked in the exact moment that hurt you. It's about how staying angry at someone for hurting you is like drinking poison and expecting them to get sick. The closure I needed wasn't something Melissa could give me. It wasn't something I could take from her by showing up at her wedding or proving she was a bad person or any of that. The closure I needed was deciding that her choices 5 years ago didn't have to define what I believed about myself. And that's not some soft, easy decision. That's actually really hard work. That's talking to a therapist, which I did a lot. That's going through every moment of your wedding day and extracting meaning from the things that happened instead of from the interpretations you built around them. That's deciding that you're not going to organize your life around not being the person someone decided you were. The Ashford estate with the wisteria-covered pergola is just a place now. It's not the vessel where my happiness was supposed to live or die. Melissa is just my sister now, not a villain, not a hero. Just someone I'm related to who made some bad choices and is trying to do better. And I'm just someone who planned a wedding that didn't go the way I wanted, and then spent 5 years believing that meant something about me instead of just being something that happened. If you're listening to this and you're sitting in your own version of this story, wherever your betrayal is, whoever your villain is, I want you to know that the revenge fantasy is free. You can have it. You can imagine it all day long. But the actual closure, that comes from somewhere else. It comes from deciding that you're not going to organize your narrative around someone else's worst behavior. It comes from understanding that people who hurt you are usually hurt too, not as an excuse, but as a context. And it comes from believing that you're allowed to take your life back. That you don't have to stay in the moment that broke you, even if you do have to go back to the same venue. Actually, especially then, thank you for letting me sit with this story for the last half hour. If it landed with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you have a version of this story, a moment where you realized that holding on to anger was the only thing keeping you trapped, I'd really like to hear about that too. This isn't a neat story. I'm not sitting here claiming I forgave Melissa in some beautiful moment of transcendence. We're still working through it. We're still rebuilding what got broken. But we're doing it. And that's the part that matters. See you next time.